want to go by the book. In fact, there is another unofficial but long-standing tradition begun around the end of the second Christian century. This other approach, this unofficial approach, is to listen to your friend, the one with the theological opinions, and consult a manual of heresiology. And then you find a claim which sort of more or less sounds like him, and then you denounce him using the provided label. So he'll end up being a Sabellian, an Arian, a Monarchian, a Philanthropist, and so on. Never mind whether or not you really understand those terms, or the disputes in which they were coined by those who ended up on the Catholic side of the argument. But beware, these manuals were and are assembled by self-appointed heresy hunters, self-appointed protectors of the universal faith. The first known heresiologist was the Bishop Irenaeus of Lyon, writing his Refutation of Knowledge Falsely So-Called in about the year 180. Patristic scholar Dr. Mark Edwards says about this book of heresies that it is, quote, perhaps the only one from the patristic age whose arguments against the rejected doctrines are not wholly devoid of intellectual or forensic merit. Let me translate that for you. Generally, heresiologies are pretty terrible. They're not terribly accurate or fair. There's one very famous bad one by a guy named Epiphanius, which is much later. In my view, these manuals provide an illusion of understanding and completeness. All the heresies, they suppose, derive from named heresiarchs and are obviously wrong and easily refuted. The problem is, historians now know that these accounts of the origins of heresies are often inaccurate and distort the teachings of the people in question. If you want to know what Sabellius really thought, good luck. I've looked into it. I've had other people say that I'm agnostic. I have no idea what Sabellius really taught. I know what they said later about him when he became a stock character. Sabellianism became a stock position in these manuals. Similar things are true of the Monarchians and others. Even sometimes it's hard to figure out what some of the so-called Arians believed. Essentially, this method is pigeonholing every theological opinion you disagree with using traditional but unclearly defined terms derived from alleged heresiarchs, the founders of the heresies. This is not the way of sober truth-seeking. It's a way for the intellectually lazy to convince themselves they've mastered the range of all allegedly Christian teachings. That's what the manual promises for you. And that they've acquired the skill of distinguishing the true from the false. And it's a way for the ambitious and the contentious to cause a ruckus by denouncing people using loaded traditional language. This genre usually stays within the realm of polemics, which is to say the realm of typically mean, unfair, and poorly argued public controversy. In any case, the Catholic Church has not left the matter of making heretics to self-appointed heresy hunters.